Alright, I've selected this wood for the blade I'm going to glue up. First thing is take the rough saw marks out with this guy here. Already did that. And then we switch over to disc sander and clean up the ends further. It gives you a nice smooth finish. So this handle, we're just going to do it a single piece. So next I'm going to drill so the tang fits. And then we'll do some hot set cutlers resin. So we've got our block prepped. Ends are nice and smooth. I'm going to lay out the tang. I've got a blade picked out that I want to put in there. That's all prepped. Is a little more period profile, even though my tang is a little beefier than you would typically find. The materials I have available to me. The hole on this isn't important, except it helps me get the blade out of the kiln during heat treat. So this could just be sawtoothed up and it would do the trick. This isn't a chopping blade. It's not a throwing knife. It's just an overall utility knife. You'd use this to eat with, to prep game, cook food, cut rope, cut leather, hides for projects, medieval EDC. Doesn't have to be super robust, it's just got to do the task at hand. If you want to do chopping, make an axe. We're going to make a hole bigger than we need. We're going to lay it on there, trace it out, drill some holes, and then I've got this little sawtooth bit that'll let me walk between two holes and open it up for the pitch. So we're going to do that. So I like to draw a center line and a start and stop. And on this one we're going to go a little bit further because we want to have room for the resin. I should also mention that it's not a bad idea to draw the tang on the sides so you know how deep to drill. I'm going to do that now because I forgot. Now I've got a little indicator line so I know at least how deep I want to drill. Probably go a little bit further than that to give myself room for the pitch. This would be pretty much the same thing for epoxy, except I would be putting a guard on top as well, not just an opening, but I want room for the pitch to fill in. And I'm not sure what wood this is, but I like the coloring, so it'll do the trick. For as light as the blade is, even pine would hold up. It wouldn't be nearly as pretty. I like to use woods that are pretty without staining or coloring. Because I'm lazy and I want to skip a step. So we've gotten as deep as this set will let me go. I need to readjust. Side note, I'm pretty comfortable with the tools I use. You might see me reach in, touch the bit to knock the wood loose, grab the chuck to slow it down. Not really recommended. I've been using this particular drill press long enough that I know if I grab this while it's slowing down, the motor's not heavy enough that it's going to whip me around. The rotating tools are dangerous. Sleeves are kind of iffy, especially if you're reaching over here. This would grab me and tie it up. It would probably stall it out before it totally disfigured me, but it would definitely hurt, cut me up probably. So with power tools, don't do as I do, do as I say. But in the end, they're your fingers, not mine. Do what you want. And if anybody sees OSHA, know you did. With this, it kind of cuts sideways, so I'm pushing it up and I'm leaning it towards the web to hollow out between them, just to give me room for the blade. I'm on the other side of it, working towards the middle again. Now I'm back on the original side, and now we're gummed up enough that I gotta clear the shavings. For the purposes of this video, I'm a professional. We're looking better, but it's not clear down to the bottom. So a little bit more work, and then I gotta lower this some more to get the rest of the way down. Drop the blade in and see where we're at. I know we're not... Okay, we're all the way in. I did not think we were that far yet. Which means I might be an idiot. That's to the line, and we're there. So, yeah. What I'll do is I'll do some detail work to get the blade closer to touching. Well, you know, front and back edge touching as if I were doing a brass guard. And then I will undercut inside, because I don't know if this is an oily wood or not. I want to put grip surfaces for the cutlers resin to fill and bond to give me a mechanical lock, just in case this is oily enough that you could theoretically pull it out. So I want to make sure to give it some grip inside. If I were using epoxy, I wouldn't be quite as careful. It takes so much longer to set up that I feel it'll get into the pores more, and it's not like I'm closing the pores with anything. But the cutlers resin is kind of new to me still, and so I want to give it the best chance of success as I can, and currently that's the method I'm using. Okay, so I've fitted the blade into the wood a little bit. It'll help keep it from rotating, reinforcing the resin. I've undercut it. That went pretty well. Pretty sure this is a resinous oily wood. I tried heating it and it kind of oozed out a little bit. So hot setting a blade in this would probably be really effective. It's not a method I like. So what we're going to start with is I've got two different ratio cutler resins. I got the bigger block here, which is a higher beeswax content so that it has more flex, so it can handle shock better. And then the thinner block is a higher pitch content, so it's a little firmer, so less likely to rub off the color on your clothes. Should be a little more resistant to creep. So I'm going to use this to cap it off, and I'm going to use the softer stuff, which should adhere a little better and handle shock better, because this is pretty brittle. This will be down in the tang doing most of the work. This one's just kind of like a top coat or finishing pass on a weld, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to heat the tang up a little bit. Hold it in your hand, and you can't overheat it because you'll drop it. And when I see the color and or moisture leave, I'll go through and I can start rubbing the cutlers resin on it and start filling the little hooks in the hole, so I know I have resin in there. Just heat it up a little bit, heat the resin up. Keep calling it resin. It's pitch, or pitch is more appropriate. It's kind of like a resin. I don't know what the technical variations of pitch and resin are. One you can sing and one you can't. I don't know. So we're just going to keep this warm enough to get a good coat. That way we know it's all over it. before we stick it in there and it's not cold. If you push a cold piece of metal into hot pitch, it kind of skins up, and you want it to really be a part of that, because that's the whole idea, is we're trying to bond to this as well as we can. And then we got a good coating on there, so I'll set that down, and that can cool a little bit. We'll heat it up before we actually insert it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start heating this up and dripping it into the hole. That it stays soft for a good amount of time. It'll heat up the wood inside, and it'll bond to it a little bit. It'll stick into the grooves that I put in there, or it'll fill the grooves rather, giving us a good mechanical lock in there. So we've got grooves on the tang, we've got grooves in the wood, and this is the filler that's going to lock them all together. And once this is liquid, it actually stays liquid a fairly decent amount of time. So it gives you time to reposition and all that. And you don't have to worry about it hitting the wood, cooling off too soon, and not filling the voids and shapes that I've left down there. I could do this with a heat gun too, but it kind of spreads it out a bit. And I want to make sure I'm getting it down in the hole. I'm going to check the level. Looks like it's filling pretty good. I'm going to go a little more than half on account of the size of the tang I'm working with. And I can always add more once it's in. Once it's in, I don't want to pull it out. And I'm going to take a break here. Move it around, make sure that I get a coating in the grooves that I put in there. So I need a little more in there. And then I'm going to clean up the lip where I've been missing some. And hopefully that hasn't bonded real well. There we go. Get up in there. Yep. Okay. All the surfaces there look pretty good. So I'm just going to use a different blade here real quick and try and peel some of this back. And I'm just going to... I think I have enough in there, so I'm just going to stick it back to the rest of the cube. Because I want that to be the harder stuff when I'm done. I'm going to liquid that up a little bit, and I can, if I had prepared, I could wipe that right off. But I didn't prepare, so... reach up here, grab a paper towel, looks like it's still liquid, hit it real quick, just wipe that off. Now I got paper towel stuck in there, great. Not going to hurt anything, but I didn't want the white showing. Okay, and we got a pretty good covering in there. I'm going to heat this back up. See, I got a couple of dry spots there. Yeah, we'll call it dry. There we go, they filled in nicely. A little smoke off of it. We know we got heat. And I'm going to start attempting to insert this. It's going well, but it's overfilled. I'm gonna let it fill into everything. And then I'm going to set it into its little grooves that I created earlier. And I will use a little bamboo skewer to remove some of that as it starts to firm up, and then I can put a little bit of this on top to give it a harder coat. And I'll let that spread out over the whole top and clean it up later. But first I want to find a block of wood. Doesn't have to be much, just enough to protect the tip. Rubber mallet, and I'm going to tap it in a little bit to make sure it's seated in the grooves I made earlier. And you can feel the heat in the handle because it's cool in here, so you know it's working. And I'm just adjusting the forward to back tilts. I'm going to adjust the tilts left to right as the resin cools, as the pitch cools. I can still move it for a while until it really it's actually got a lot of heat. It's a lot of heat coming through. It's actually really nice because it's kind of chilly in here right now. But as that cools, it'll start to firm up and hold it in place. But until then, I can tweak it back and forth as much as I want. And we're actually, if you see on this side, if this will focus, we've got a little hole showing there. Whereas it's cooling, it's shrinking a little. That's easy to fix at any time in its life with just a little bit of heat. Pushing her in, center it up. Okay, so now before it completely firms up on the top, I'm going to grab a cleanish stick, and look at that. Took that blob right off. I can add it back to the original stick and use it later. That's the nice thing is it's like hot glue. It's reusable. Get that off of there. Stick it on there. It's pliable for a little while until it gets to room temperature. I like how long it takes to actually cool down when it comes to this. I don't like it when I'm testing it and trying to find out if I got the mix right or not, because it does take a while. Now see, we've got all this build up here, and I can just go boop and it's gone. Boop, and it's nice and down below, so when I put the other stuff on, it'll form a cap. We've got that hole on this side, so I soften it up, and I kind of want to poke down and see if I can let the air out. So I can always add more to fill it. I don't want to get an air pocket trapped in there. That'll be a weak spot, or could open up later on a customer, and ain't nobody got time for that. And one of the reasons I pre-sharpen on these was I wanted at least the factory edge, as it were, to go all the way to the wood, even if the customer might not be able to get down there when they resharpen in the future. It just looks nicer on the table. So, yep. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Let it cool down. Come in, top it off with the harder mix, and then you knock the corners off and shape it like a handle, and you got a knife. So I've pre-assembled this one, so it's already cool and ready to grind. We're going to knock the corners off and start getting it at least mostly handle shape. Also, I'm working with sharp blades on this. I don't recommend that starting out. If you have to work a sharp blade, make yourself a little sleeve of cardstock, heavy paper, paper towel, something that requires a little more than just a little slip to cut you deeply. That way, if the machine grabs it and whips it out of your hand, you don't have a cut across your palm. Ask me how you learned that one the hard way. So a little bit of electric tape or tape of your choice, something to keep it from easily cutting, nice and firm. You can kind of take them off and back on again if you do it right. Shouldn't need to, but for these purposes, this should be safe enough. So here we go. Now this is their coat. I gotta be real careful with this. If the belt's too dull, it'll heat this up and it will, on the butt caps it'll chart black, but it'll also start cracking it. So I definitely want to make sure this doesn't get too gummed up. The Purple Heart doesn't really care. And I'm kind of, at this point, checking my seam, make sure that it doesn't look totally exposed and stuff, and it looks pretty good, so I didn't get anything sloppy. We might have to get a little more aggressive to get down to the antler, but a little bit at a time is fine. Take your time. Don't nick up your blade. Don't cut through your safety. Don't hit your fingers more than you have to. Already tapped them once because I'm paying more attention to the camera. But yeah, this is a good start. Gets the corners off. And it's a hair on the short side, but some of the period examples I've seen, the blade is pretty close to the same size. Depends on your region and what you're going for, but yeah, that's the gist of it. So let's hit some more grinding. Okay, so that's rough ground. It's a 36 grit belt. Doing it on the flat platen, you're really likely to get dip ins and stuff if you're not careful. Switching to the flat slack belt up top can help blend those in a lot easier. Cut down on the dig ins. Seams look good on that still, so I'm pretty happy with the glue up, as it were. And this one I'll probably go to a 120 grit from there until I don't see scratch marks. And then I'm going to probably hand sand this to finish refining the shape. Might do it a little before just to get the profile I want. I want it to taper down a little because of the type of sheath I'm going to use with this. It's going to slip in and kind of lock. So I want it narrower here than it is here. And that tends to be more comfortable for people's hands. But yeah, that's going to be a nice little medieval everyday carry with the cutler's resin assembly. And yeah, I probably won't buff this, but I will give it a light coat of oil just to make it a little more period correct and easier to maintain for the customer, who is probably going to wear this in costume all the time. Yeah, and this bit of purple heart here will darken when it heats up or with oxygen, so over time it'll go from a kind of a lightish purple to a darker shade. Or if I hit it with a little torch or heat, it'll go all the way to black, depending on how much I put there. With the resin though, I don't want to bleed it out from the lines, so I probably won't hit it with the torch. We've done initial shaping with 36 grit. I'm probably going to clean this up by hand a little just to get it a little less oval and get this narrower down without nicking the blade or damaging all that careful work I've done. And then might hit it real quick with the 120 to take out the big scratches, and then we'll switch to hand sanding, so we're directional, that I can't do on here readily without leaving roller marks and all that in it. And then it's ready for oil, and then it's ready for a customer. Well, after I get a sheath made, of course. So we're over here at the finishing desk. Normally you see this from a different angle, but I assure you, it's the same table. And what we're going to do is I got the blade clamped up in my homemade knife jig, knife vise, whatever. The protective wrap on the blade is really good when you clamp it to finish the handle. Keeps you from scratching the blade if it wiggles in the vise a little. And when you're getting into it, it's pretty easy to get it to start rocking. So one of the things that helps with making nice curved, smooth, round handles is a stropping motion with your sanding strips. So running it like this versus trying to do this, this is only hitting a small area. This is hitting a wider area, so it's blending all of the grind marks that might be in there out. It is using a lot more of the sandpaper at the same time, but it's real good at knocking down high spots and leaving you with a good finish and blending things in. I didn't do that starting out. It's something I switched to later, and wish I'd started it sooner. Got this bottom edge chamfered a little bit, so it's not quite as sharp. Went to 240 grit lengthwise. Took out all the existing scratches. Only took, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Nice and smooth. Nothing to interfere with your comfort. Now we're just going to dip it in a turpentine linseed oil mix that I've had forever, and just let it soak it all up, and that'll get in, soak in. It actually polymerizes inside the wood and the antler, whatever it gets into. So it'll let the outside get a little poofy if it gets wet, but that ends up giving you a little better grip. But it hardens below the surface so that it doesn't get in and like swell up and crack on you and stuff, unless you really abuse the handle. Put a little bit of this stuff on there once a year, let it soak in, wipe it off, and it keeps materials good for a long damn time. Yeah. It makes that wood look really nice. even if it's just for a little bit. Don't know if you can actually make that out or anything, but